Alright, so for this video, we will be discussing how we can convert our datasets into Excel tables. Excel tables allows you to analyze your data very efficiently, and it automatically comes with great functionalities like filtering, sorting, and adding total rows. So to show you some of these functionalities, we need to convert our dataset into a table. The first thing we need to do is remove our subtotals, if you haven't already done so. So I'm going to select a cell within our dataset, come up to the Data tab, click our subtotal command, and select Remove All. Now to convert our dataset into a table, we can select a cell within our dataset or select the whole dataset. It doesn't matter. Then we have to come up to the Insert tab and click Table. And in our pop-up window, we need to make sure that the checkbox is checked for My Table Has Headers, because it does, and we can click OK. And now we have so many great options that we can do with this table. Before, our dataset just had plain black text against a white background. Now with the table, we actually have some formatting options. You can see that it formatted our headers to a dark blue background color with white bold text, and it also made each row a different color, so now our eyes can adjust and easily read through this dataset. We can come up to our ribbon under Table Styles and choose a style that we prefer. We can go back to None, or if we want more of a darker color scheme, we can choose one of these down here. It's totally up to you. Tables have many different formatting options. You can also create your own formatting style to apply to your table. And if you notice, when we converted our data set into a table, Excel automatically put the drop-down arrows in our column headings. And we've seen these before. We can use these drop-down arrows to apply different sorting options and apply filter options as well. Another neat feature of a table is that we can come up to our ribbon and check the box that is labeled Total Row. And at the bottom of our table, it added a new row, and within this cell, right now it's showing a total of 27. But how did it get 27? If we click this drop-down, the current function placed in this cell is the count function. So it's counting all the records within that column. Well, if we don't want the count function in there, we can select None. But let's say that we want to have a total amount of the cells column. We can click in this cell, click on the drop-down, and select the Sum function. Now Excel summed the whole cells column without us manually going into this cell and typing in the Sum function ourselves. Now if you want to add more rows to this table, you can move your cursor to the bottom right-hand corner of the table, and then you can click and drag down for how many rows you want to add. You can also add a row anywhere inside this table as well. For example, if you wanted to add a row between 15 and 16, I can select row 16 and then press Ctrl+ as a shortcut key to add a row. And it won't mess up the functionality of the table. I'm going to undo those changes. Now that we have our table in place, what if we wanted to add another column to our table? Well, I can click in the next cell next to Region, and we can add a % of total column. So for my header, I'm going to type in % of total. And if I click Enter, Excel automatically knows that we're trying to add on to the table. Another neat thing about tables is how they handle formulas. For example, to get the % of total for this record, we need to add a formula. So the first thing we have to do is type in the equal sign, and then click in cell C2, and look what happened to our formula. Instead of using the cell reference C2, since we're working inside of a table, it just puts the header name of that column. And once again, that's why it's important to make sure that we have header names. Then we have to divide this amount by the grand total. So I'm going to press / and then select the grand total. And once again in our formula, instead of using the cell reference, it put in a little piece of code referencing the total row at the bottom of the table for the cells column. And if we click enter, Excel automatically filled the formula down to the rest of our table. And since we used currency values within our formula, Excel was trying to be helpful to match that format. But since we want it in percent format, we can select our percent of total column, come up to the Home tab, and within the number group, we can select percent. And then we can also increase our decimal places to get a more accurate reading. So that's the basics of an Excel table. As you just saw, there are many different functionalities that come with an Excel table, and this can save us a lot of time to analyze our data and also quickly apply formatting to our data sets.